Folks, welcome back to So Bad It's Good. First off, I wanted to thank everybody out there. We are in the top 20 of TV and film podcasts today, and that is just fantastic. Thank you for always going with me, whether it's reality shows, TV, film, music, movies. And today we're diving a little bit into true crime. I will talk about true crime every now and then. I always find it fascinating, the intersection between true crime and pop culture, especially in this last decade. So grab your emotional support wine glass because today's episode is not your average Bravo breakdown. I am talking to a woman whose name has been in the news since 2016. In 2016, Sherri Papini vanished. A search followed, her family pleaded, her face was on every news station, and now 22 days later after that, she reappeared on the side of the road, bruised, branded, shackled, and very much a miracle, except aspects of her story were not true. Years later, the story unraveled, and it is still unraveling. What really happened? Why did she lie? Did she lie? What was real? What was fantasy? And what happens after you fake elements of a national tragedy and go to jail for it? Today, I am sitting down with Sherri herself. No actors, no AI voice doubles, no ID Discovery reenactments, just her. And we'll try to get into all of it. She is here to promote her new book, Sherri Papini Doesn't Exist, The Lie That Defined Me, The Media That Destroyed Me, and the Truth That No One Heard, which you can get more details at sherripapinibook.com, and that'll be in the show notes. But Sherri Papini, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I mean, the first thought is, I asked you this before we started. You've been very open and you've been doing interviews, and there was the ID Discovery 4-part series, which I watched, and I spoke with the director. Why do you, I mean, I would hide away. I would say, screw all of this. You know, I want to fight for my kids. I want to do this, but I don't need the public to be involved in any way. Why are you willing to even talk to me today?
Well, there's been so many stories about me that are ran without me. You know, it's one thing when someone carries your voice without you. It's really difficult when everyone has control over your narrative and everyone has control of deciding who you are. And that's what it's been like for the past decade, is everyone has decided who I am without even asking me. You know, I haven't had the opportunity until now to participate in having a voice and using a voice. And I think a lot of us in our lifetime at one time or another have been bullied by people and had people make assumptions in one way or another. And this is really about me taking my power back and using my voice and having an opportunity to do so. Everyone should have an opportunity to be heard.
No, I agree. And there was this argument within myself, or if I would tell people, hey, I'm going to interview Sherri Papini, and it is you get immediate feedback. Mm-hmm. And some of you got to do it. And some people, you don't do that at all. Don't do that at all. Very extreme reactions to your name. And I just always was wondering, man, that has got to be so much to hear. And you were saying before we started is that, you know what? People can say whatever they want. I'm not like that. That could rock me. But I guess you've been through so much in this last decade that's changed you to a degree.
Absolutely. And we don't have to read the comments. You know, I don't have to read the comments. And frankly, people have been incredibly mean, and that's okay. They have the right to do so.
And do you understand ever why people are mean, or with the information that was put out there? I could understand, or I could see with the information that they had at this time that this might provoke an angry response.
To an extent. Yeah, to an extent. I think a lot of people struggle with their own curiosity, right? This is a very sensitive subject to a lot of people, and it touches home for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that can identify with so many parts of my story. And I think when you have someone just general, right, that has an experience of having been lied to, it's really deeply personal. You know, it's people that get really riled up by it, and that's understandable. I'm not in any way discounting anyone's experience by that. It's not going to stop me, though.
Yeah. To take a hard left pivot, what did you do this weekend? What does a weekend at this moment in 2025 look like for Sherri Papini?
I went out on the lake on the boat with my dad.
You did?
As usual, yeah.
It's summertime. You're not binging a Netflix show or an HBO show? You're going out on a lake? You're going outside?
Yeah. I mean, I live in a beautiful part of California. I live right next to Lake Shasta, and having access to some some of our most beautiful natural lakes in Northern California. So I'm out on the boat with Dad.
I was really hoping you were going to say you watched a bunch of Housewives, but you went out in nature, you touched grass. That's your parents were involved in the HBO docuseries, and you seem to have such a strong relationship with them now, and your mother especially. And in the book, your mother wrote you every day in prison. Is that true?
Yeah.
I mean, that's very interesting, and there are elements of this that you do take accountability for, in regards to the relationship originally with James and getting the burner phone. And obviously you were married to Keith at the time. So there are things that you're like, yes, I did do this. And in your account, things just spun way out of control. Is that right?
Yeah.
Then when all of this, the media gets in it, I mean, it's such a fantastical story. I mean, you're branded, you're dropped on the side of the road. And of course, everybody's put these details out there ad nauseum, 2 Hispanic ladies, all of this story. It's so fantastical. How do you begin to rebuild your life or try to gain the trust of people? I mean, even people that raised you.
Well, I think from the beginning, after everything that had happened, there were so many holes in the story. That's why I think a lot of people struggled with it, because there was a lot of things that were missing and that didn't make sense. And then once the truth came out, everything made sense. It was trackable from start to finish, and there was a simple flow to
Are you talking
follow.
about because there's been different elements of the truth, like most recently in the docuseries, the story changed where it was James did kidnap you. This wasn't something that you had done together. This was not something you planned, which was always, I think, the assumption, and I believe what the FBI was going with in your case. But this was a huge revelation that was put forth in this docuseries, and that is the truth.
Yeah. Well, I never strayed from that. So my testimony has never changed. My testimony has always been that I was kidnapped and tortured and brutalized and gone for 22 days, being chained to a wall. Everything about that never changed. I was just concealing the identity of my captor for many, many, many reasons. 1, because I was too afraid of my husband finding out, and 2, it was part of the negotiation process with James. But there's never been a change. I've never said that I was not kidnapped. I never said that I was not harmed. I was just concealing the identity, which in fact, so much research has shown that so many victims take forever to come forward. It takes them lots of years to come forward. That's why the statute of limitations has changed significantly in terms of sexual assault and violent assault. It takes victims a really long time to come forward. My story is not different than any other woman's story that she's gone through. It's just that it was in the media, and it's something that has had a huge microscope on it and judged and overjudged and continued to be judged. But it took me a long time to come forward just to be able to tell the identity of my captor. In terms of the kidnapping and me being held captive, that's never changed, and I've never strayed from that.
I mean, well, in the fact that you had said it was 2 ladies at first.
Yeah.
So that did change. I mean, you were still kidnapped and tortured, but you were protecting the identity of James.
Yeah.
And you said for many reasons, and that was you feared for your life and your family's life.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But you said in the book, your husband at the time, Keith, I believe you had said he didn't believe me from the jump.
No.
He thought you were lying from the get-go.
Yeah, that's what he says in his documentary even as well.
Yeah. And what is that? I mean, I kept thinking of, we've seen some of the video in the multiple docuseries out there of you being questioned or you having to close your eyes and put yourself back in that situation. Can you put yourself back in those situations and what is actually going through your head of I'm having to fudge the truth in a certain way and I'm doing this not performance, but I'm having to protect certain aspects of this story, and then also being scared of your husband Keith at the time. What is going through your head? I mean, that seems like a prison in and of itself.
Yeah, it was horrible to manage. It was incredibly difficult to manage. And I think that's where we get the comments every once in a while of me being performative. Absolutely. When I was Keith's wife, it was always performative and it was really hard. It's really difficult to keep track of what you're saying when you're trying to conceal someone's identity. So for me, that's why primarily with the captors, I wouldn't say their names. I would just say she or them to try and eliminate that. But it was really difficult because trying to manage not being able to say that it was my ex-boyfriend and that I was having an emotional affair and got in way over my head and was in serious danger while sitting next to a husband who was going to ruin your life and cause you great harm the minute that he found out that you were having an affair. So it was just a lot of fear. And when we're in that fear state, we say and do things that are really inauthentic and really unfortunate. And I've always tried my hardest to take as much accountability for the mistakes that I've made, but I did not plan a fake kidnapping, and this was not a hoax. It was a cover-up for an identity of someone that I just couldn't tell my husband at the time that I was having an affair. And there was a lot of shame wrapped up in the fear as well, and I don't feel ashamed anymore.
Well, the James, who was a previous boyfriend from younger, and in the book you talk about you were introduced with this other gentleman who seems like he has secrets of his own as well.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're then in your book revealing other people's business from decades past, I mean, has this gentleman reached out to you or anybody? I don't mean James, but the gentleman that introduced you to James.
No, he got, so there's recordings of him that you can see in the documentaries where he gets on there. And I think that's, for me, it's the point. The point is these people get on the news or they get into things and they say their opinion, and you are welcome to say whatever you want about me.
But you're saying everybody has skeletons in their closet.
Yeah, everybody has. And if you open your mouth about me, it means that I get to open my mouth about you as well.
So you're in a way finding your voice, coming out swinging. And there is an interesting part of the book where you do reference prison in the sense that prison in some way, I mean, helped you with, being able to roast back, being able to, not put up with BS in a sense. What else did prison do for you?
Oh my gosh, it gave me so much confidence. When you're in prison, people do not care about lip gloss and hair and
But were people like, I know you? You're the one
on the first day.
Like, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They all knew that I was coming because up to my sentencing, it was all in the news. And, they have access to the news. There's TV rooms.
And the sentencing was during the pandemic, if I'm not mistaken, correct? Or was that
towards the tail end of it?
Tail end, okay.
Yeah, it was towards the tail end of it. So everyone knew I was coming because they had announced it. So on Good Morning America, on local news stations, they had been announcing where I was going to go. So everyone was watching and waiting for me to get there.
And so, they're not throwing you a welcome party.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you spent 22 days in solitary confinement. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, not quarantine.
Quarantine. That was
it.
Yeah. 22 days in quarantine before you were released to the general population.
Correct.
In those 22 days, I mean, I would imagine, have there been multiple times since 2016 and maybe a little bit before? Did you ever go, am I crazy? Am I going crazy? What was your relationship with reality? Because you're obviously in a very bad marriage, no matter what happened. This happens, the news happens, the court system happens. You're having to pay the ultimate price, your kids not being able to see them. I mean, was your sanity hanging by a thread at multiple points of time in this last decade?
It's so hard. There's so much pressure. I wish that I could say that this was just an easy process, and I wish so much that I could just wake up.
How would it be an easy process? I mean, you would be crazy if you said it was an easy process.
I mean, I wish so much that I could wake up and be like, oh, it's over now. That was all fake. I wish that I didn't still struggle from PTSD, and I wish that I didn't lose an entire year of my life. I mean, I spent every single holiday, every birthday. I barely got to speak to my kids during that time, and I've paid every price that you possibly. I'm still paying the price of Keith concealing his identity, of holding on to that lie.
What do you mean, Keith concealing his identity?
Of concealing his identity.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I was like,
the word there.
Wait, is Keith somebody else too? I was like, oh my gosh, that's
concealing. Sorry.
So I guess what actually, if with Keith. What was your courtship like? Can you remember back then? When were the good times with Keith? And when did that actually start to take a turn?
Well, Keith and I grew up together. We grew up in the same hometown. We were each other's first kiss in the 7th grade.
And that was what, Central Valley, right?
Yeah.
And you were raised Catholic, right? The book that goes into. So you knew him for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, my sister was friends with his sister and had sleepovers at his house and things like that. So we're from a really small community and we did know each other and things were really great for a while. It was, I would say, when things started to shift a lot was when everybody has power dynamics in their relationship. And I lived on my own. I had my own townhouse and he had never left home. He'd never moved out. He'd never lived on his own. And then his mom moved on to a different home and she gave him the house that she was then living in. And he asked me to move in with him. So he didn't do a lot of growing. He's very stunted and stayed in the same house that he was raised in. And then I moved into that house, which was really hard. It was hard trying to figure out where I fit in. And then moving into that house was one of the worst mistakes I could have ever made. I mean, I was just like a prop. I never got the chance to change the aesthetics of the house or have.
And I think you said you were like
issues.
a trophy wife
Yeah.
in a degree.
Yeah.
But then you actually start having kids and you're building some sort of life.
Yeah.
Are you cognizant that you are not happy in this, or did you realize years later that you were not happy in this relationship?
It took time, but I think my identity just continued to get stripped away and further stripped away and further stripped away. And it was like we started to build this marriage and Keith had an idea of how a marriage would be. And it was very different from what I thought it was going to be. I thought getting married meant you had your best friend and you had a social life still and things like that. And so when it started to change, I really started to lose myself and lost this authenticity of who I was.
Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people can find, the aspect of relatability is that so many relationships don't work.
Yeah.
And so many people get lost in their relationships. Now, the thing with Keith or watching or reading the story or watching some of these docuseries, I would be livid as well. Like, oh my God, I'm being cheated on. I'm being like somebody's having a relationship. I mean, that attacks the male ego, right? The id, all of those things. What does this say about me? And then obviously this is some sort of story where I'm like, yeah, of course he's not going to believe you. Of course he's like, because everything is wrapped up in this. So I would imagine you speak about your PTSD. God, he's got to have PTSD of his own. And also like just the not, I'm trying to play devil's advocate of like the not trusting, there's aspects of the children involved as well. I mean, can you understand any of Keith's side in that?
Of course I do.
Yeah.
I'm super empathetic to that as well. And this didn't come out of nowhere. It's not like I just all of a sudden overnight decided to have an emotional affair on him. This was years and years of begging him to come to therapy.
Were there other emotional affairs besides James? Folks, we are here once again to talk about our good friends over at Quince. I have so many amazing pieces of clothing from Quince now. In fact, I just got this gray zip-up hoodie, and I got it in a size large. I was wearing an extra large. Health journey is going great, but that's not what this commercial is about. And also, I have Quince sheets. I am sleeping on Quince sheets every night, and it is amazing. So why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff, high-quality fabrics, classic fits, and lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid. Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. How do they do this? By working directly with top artisans and cutting out that middleman. Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/sobad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/sobad. Go to their website right now, folks. You're going to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/sobad. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bills. That's why I made the switch to Mint Mobile. I use this. You should too. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month on the nation's largest 5G network. I mean, the sound is pristine. So say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages because Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. Like I said, all plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text, delivered on that largest 5G network. So, this year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sobad. That's mintmobile, mintmobile.com/sobad. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Join the fun on DraftKings Casino, ranked the #1 online casino experience. They've got everything you've been searching for. Thousands of exciting games, huge jackpots, exclusive offers, and more. New players get a 10-day welcome offer. 500 spins on Huff and More Puff when you play just $5 to start. So, download the DraftKings Casino app, sign up with code SOBAD, and spin your favorite slots. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days. Valid for feature game only and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. #1 based on Eilers and Krajcik 2H24 product analysis.
I mean, I was engaging and speaking to other people, but that's different. So I think what we define an emotional affair is if it's romantic in nature in any way. So in terms of defining that, I was really extremely isolated and deeply controlled by my ex-husband. So having any sort of engagement with anybody was considered an emotional affair to him because I was having a conversation with someone that wasn't him.
Did you have you had a Facebook account? You had an Instagram account? You didn't have any social media?
No, I was not allowed to.
So how do you go out to be able to get even a burner phone to begin with? I mean, but this is how rookie I am. I'm like, where do you get a burner phone? I'm thinking of HBO's The Wire and stuff where they're doing drug deals on burner phones. Where are you getting a burner phone? And where did these burner phones go? Because I feel like that has the evidence that we need.
Right.
Where are they?
That part. Yeah, that's what's infuriating for me is this exoneration that I could have gotten, right, are on those burner phones. And they would have seen that there was no plan. They would have seen how aggressive James was that morning and how things went down through text message. It would have really been able to save me. And somehow they're just missing. They're just gone.
Well, I mean, were they with you on your person when you were taken into that car?
Yeah. And they have the signal. From what I understand, they have the signal, but they can't retrieve the data.
So the burner phone had text messages on it, phone call records, all of that stuff.
Yeah. It's infuriating.
Now, the obvious question is, and I don't know how much you can speak about this, is, and I know we're hopping all around, but welcome to So Bad It's Good. That's what we do here.
I got this.
Well, because watching these things, I think I'm trying to come as the lay person that's watching this. You know, so many questions is, why is James not in jail? If what you say is true, and the audio that we do have of him, he seems kind of like a schmuck. He seems like a little maybe dim-witted. I'm not saying Forrest Gump, but he just seems like helping a friend in need. It got out of control. I believe in your docuseries, they go to his door, his grandpa's or something, if I'm remembering correctly, or his dad's. Where is he in all of this? Why is he not being heavily questioned? And why is he not on a podcast tour or something?
Exactly. Why is he hiding so much? What do you have to hide? I have been stripped bare this entire process. There is absolutely nothing that's private in my life at all. I mean, for God's sakes, the photographs that they have of my entire body are everywhere for people to see. There's still a person behind the injuries, and yet they're just accessible for everyone to see. But where is James? Why don't we see any of his interrogations? Why don't we see anything else? Because there wasn't a huge investigation for him. His interrogation was like two frat boys sitting on his couch. I mean, they led him into what they needed him to say to get what they needed from him, and then they left. It's absolutely infuriating. And so it's just, I understand that I concealed his identity, and I understand that I made a mistake by not coming forward with the truth immediately because there were so many layers to it for me. But do we really live in a society where a man can hurt a woman and get away with it just by saying she asked for it? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I wasn't able to tell the truth then, but I am now. And what I'm telling you is there is no evidence to conclude consent. None whatsoever. Not only is there no evidence to conclude that I consented, they found drugs in my system. So I had been drugged the entire 22 days, and that eliminates your consent even further. There's no way to say that I consented to that. It's just James saying, well, she asked for it. And I'm sorry, but have you ever branded a friend and chained them to a wall for 22 days and then just didn't tell the cops what happened and then lied when they came to you?
Well, I mean, if you're having this burner phone relationship with this man, and then it's getting to the part where you are chained and branded and a hockey puck is like smashed against your body.
Right.
You're not picking up on that this guy is off. And I'm sorry to have to question like this, but I think you're probably used to it. But you're not going like, this guy's off. Why am I in any sort of emotional affair with it? There's other guys I could be in emotional affairs with.
Right.
This guy's off. And this, he kidnaps me and then shackles. I mean, like, this is so far from any sort of emotional affair. What was that? But what was that turn in? Obviously, you're potentially, I would imagine, being very sweet with each other. Do you feel like you were being groomed in some way? And then how did you feel?
It's beautifully put. I appreciate that. So the grooming process, I didn't quite recognize it because I was so desperate for a connection with someone. When you're so isolated all the time, you're not allowed to have friends. You're not allowed to have connections. For me, it was like, oh my God, somebody's talking to me. And for me, I knew James lived in Southern California, so that's safe. It's like being on a chat room. They're nowhere near you. And for me, I was trying to end the engagement. I wanted it to end because he was getting more serious, and I just wanted someone to talk to. I didn't want to have an affair, a physical affair with him. I didn't want to continue. I wasn't very flirty with him either. He was more on the romantic side, and I knew that it needed to end because it didn't feel appropriate anymore.
But in the book, and this was obviously what is a key mistake, is you felt you needed to do that in person.
Yeah, there's a lot that kind of goes into that. When having the personality that I have of like a people pleaser and things like that, it's really difficult for me to say no. And that's where this got really out of hand. It was hard for me to be able to just stand up for myself and be direct and be assertive and say no to things.
Oh, so listen, I get that. That's the part where I can put myself in that situation. I'm a people pleaser. I will, I think anybody going through this story or trying to understand your point of view or anything, you obviously put yourself in a situation and go, okay, these are the times that I've done this, or this is what I've told somebody because I was too chicken shit to actually say my real feelings and I didn't want to hurt all of this stuff. I can understand that.
Yeah.
But you wanted to do this in person, so that's a 6-hour drive for him, right?
I think it's more than that.
More than that. So
yeah. Well, we both wanted to do it in person. So there was a conversation back and forth. I would say both people wanted to do it. And James had continued to threaten, if you don't do what I want, then I know where Keith works and I know where you live and I'm just going to blow everything up anyway. So I'm going to tell Keith that you're having an affair and I'm coming for you. So there wasn't really a whole lot of option of choice.
And this is where it gets bizarre, and even the pop culture element of this is that, in your docuseries, it was something that I'd never seen done on a docuseries before, is that you participated in your own reenactments. I hate to even, it's so meta and so bizarre in a weird way, because I was just like, whose idea was it? And I don't want to, because I
Not mine.
watched all 4 parts, but like you're being asked to reenact something that was, however it happened, traumatic.
The worst moment of my life.
I mean, in finding your voice, was that a big discussion of like, I don't think this would be great? Because I was waiting to see, is she going to freak out? Is she going to like, and you're out there with the camera crew, who all said they really believed you. They went on record saying that. Nicole Rittenmeyer, the director, believed you. But to me, I was like, we are living in a very different society where we are now having these people reenact
trauma.
And we're watching it and we're participating in it. The parasocial elements of this is so wild. I thought that was I mean, it was highly viewable. But I was like, should we have done this? Did that ever go through your mind, or did any of your friends or family go, should you have done the reenactment?
Well, I mean, you hear my therapist on there going, we don't do that. We don't do that. And when the idea was presented to me, I had contacted my management team. It was like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't want to do this. I don't think I can do this. Like I'm going to have a panic attack. It's going to be awful. And it was this continued process of, but you're getting your voice, you're getting an opportunity here, and you're getting an opportunity to demonstrate like how serious this was, because how do you continue to prove that this was real unless you go through it? That's why the polygraph was so
which you talk about that in the book as well. You passed the polygraph test.
That's why it was important because the production company, what they didn't want to do is they needed to vet me. They needed to see that there was actual truth behind what I was saying, and pouring over evidence and pouring over everything. And
how deep into the filming of the docuseries was the polygraph?
The documentary took like a year to film. So
was it
I would
early
say
on or
towards the end of it?
Because I would have done it at the beginning and be like, why are we going to waste this money if she's lying right off the bat?
Right. Well, it's, they had to, the schedule and things like that.
No, it was just, I've never seen that in a true crime docuseries. Yeah. First off, it's very rare for the person to participate.
And that's not the first one. They had access to my other one. So I think because I gave them access to other polygraph examinations that I'd taken, I think that was where it sparked their fascination with the potential as well.
And you've always passed each of these polygraph tests.
Yeah.
Now, the devil's advocate says, well, people would be like, you're that good of a liar. You're that good of a liar that you can pass every polygraph.
That's interesting, because if you see, we watch in the documentary, right, there's a sticky part of my polygraph. So there's a part in the polygraph where it picks up. So what polygraphs do is they try to demonstrate a physiological response to something that you struggle with. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a big lie or a little lie or even a lie at all. It means that there's a response in something. And for me, I still carried so much shame when it came to, this is all my fault. Like, I had contacted him, I had asked him to come to Reading, and so that shame was something that you were getting. But what it also demonstrated is that I carry remorse still, and that there was still more than what we had interviewed for before. And when you're that good of a liar, then you just pass a polygraph with no results. You don't end up having results that they have to look farther into, or inconsistencies in anything. So for me, I am so grateful for the examination for the film, because it shows that I still carry remorse and that I have a response emotionally. I'm not a psychopath or a sociopath. I do actually have demonstrated accountability for things still.
What is the most important part of all of this for you? Because in your book, there's a good passage in your book where you'd say, accountability holds transformative power. Admitting mistakes lifts a crushing weight, clearing a path forward. When younger, I couldn't trace my issues to their roots. I couldn't pinpoint sources of toxic patterns. I didn't differentiate between streams nourishing my life and those poisoning my emotional landscape. My protection meant building walls, structures I thought shielded me, but instead hurt others. Taking them down required painful honesty I wasn't sure I possessed, which I thought that was a powerful paragraph there. But with the accountability that you have taken, it's always still going to be questioned. So what is the most important thing in all of this for you?
This was not fake. The kidnapping was not fake. What happened to me is very real. What happened to my body was very real, and I didn't ask for it. I didn't consent to it.
And then in the aftermath of this and things that have been taken away from you and the life that you are leading now, which still sounds like, you're out on a beautiful lake with your dad. I was with my dad and we had a cheeseburger this weekend. So it sounds like you won there. It was a bad cheeseburger. What is the biggest thing that you want back in terms of what you've lost?
My children.
Yeah. And where are we, if I'm allowed to ask, with the children? Because I know you have visitation to a degree. What is the visitation?
I have supervised visits at the moment because the custody is at Keith's discretion. It is not court-ordered supervision. It's just ordered by Keith Papini. So because he has 100% physical and 100% legal, he gets to make the choices, and that's his choice. We're mid-custodial modification trial right now, and that means that once we conclude the trial, which is going to happen in a couple weeks from now, the judge is going to make a ruling and she's going to modify the custody.
What is that like, that court process? I mean, and do you feel good about it? Do you feel like, oh gosh, this docuseries came out, my book came out, I'm doing all these interviews. Do you feel like that hurts the chances? Like how does this work?
Family court is excruciating. It's incredibly difficult. I know there's so many people out there that have to go through family court. Generally when we have people that go through divorces and they go through custody exchanges, the only people that you see in court are generally the ones that have toxicity in the marriage or have abuse present in the marriage. If there wasn't that, then you wouldn't see them in family court. They would just amicably split.
Yeah.
And it's there for a reason. It's there for intervention when you can't come together. But it's difficult. You have these very one-sided, obviously, opinions, and Keith can get on the stand and say whatever he wants, and it's horrible to hear the way that he speaks, and horrible to hear the things that he says. And
are you there for when he's saying these things?
Yeah, I have to just sit there
and you get to say your piece as well, correct?
The trial that concludes, I get to take the stand now, finally.
And so when is that going to be? In a couple of weeks? The 12th.
Yeah.
Are you nervous for that?
No.
Really?
No.
Wow. I would be very I would hope the words that I would want to say would be there at the right moment. But is there this, so he's up there, he's painted a certain picture, and now you get to be up there, and it's really this battle of the law and your lawyers and things like that. And then the judge decides. When
we think about the mistakes that I made, right, which there's some big ones, but I've had the opportunity to rehabilitate, right? A lie is a lie, is a lie, is a lie. I didn't hurt anyone. The only person that got hurt in this was me. So when you think about trying to rehabilitate someone from a lie, what would you have to do? You would have to go through therapy. You would have to become self-aware. You would have to understand why we got to where we got to. I've done all of that.
Oh, totally. I mean, that I completely agree with, but there would be a little pushback of like, I didn't hurt anyone. I would imagine everybody got hurt in this. I would imagine your parents got hurt. I mean, like the aftermath. Oh, physically, yes. Yeah. Emotionally, I mean, I would imagine
everyone's been traumatized.
You even
by
talk
this.
about your friends and the friends that stood by you or with you the night before you went to prison, like all of those people, even the people that didn't know how to speak with you about this.
And I'm not discounting that at all.
No.
I'm not discounting that at all.
That I think obviously is an emotional, not a physical, but you meant physical.
Yeah. I'm the one that walks around with the scars from my body. I'm not saying in any way or discounting in any way that everyone has been through something. Everybody that's connected to this case has been through something. And even strangers that comment on the internet have some experience with this case.
Hey, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone has some kind of connection in this case. Everyone can see little bits and pieces of their life in my case, whether it's the lie, the emotional affair, the family court, the judicial system, going to prison, having a family member that's been to prison, the concealing of the emotional affair, the harm that I went through, the abuse that I went through in my marriage. Everybody can see some kind of part of their own lives in my story.
Is this the best version of yourself you are right now? Is this the best version of Sherri Papini in front of me?
The most authentic.
The most authentic.
For sure.
Okay, so there is a freedom for you in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of Keith, so this happens, we've seen the investigators sit you down and ask if he wants to be in here for this information and all of this. And then when is it decided that we're getting a divorce? That's it.
So after I caught my case, I was released from the Sacramento County Jail, and then things got very sticky. And the portion of this that a lot of people don't, I think, realize is after 2016, when I was released from captivity, 6 years went by that I was living at home, taking care of my children.
Did you think you would never have to answer for, did you, I mean, not that I got away with it, but did you go like, I might live the rest of my life without anybody knowing about James?
I think the plan was always to eventually talk about James.
In your head?
Yes.
But you didn't share that with anybody?
No. The plan was always to also leave Keith, too. So I think what needed to happen first for me is there needed to be safety of me being out of the marriage with Keith.
So you're still kind of living a lie once you get out because you know you do not want to be with Keith, right?
No. And I think a lot of women that are abused in marriages understand it takes a really long time to get away, specifically when you have children. That makes it very difficult. And for me as well, I live in a really small town where everybody knows Keith. Everybody knows Keith. And he has quite a lot of clout, and he has a lot of help in the county as well, not just with law enforcement, but he knows everybody in Shasta County. So it was really difficult for me. And I'd gone through over a decade in this marriage already where I didn't have my friends anymore. I didn't have access to anyone anymore. So
and I mean, did it go through your head too? Why does Keith want to be with me at this point?
Well, sure.
I mean,
I don't, that's interesting too, because it certainly seemed like he hated me.
I mean, listen, if he didn't hate you before, I would imagine through all of this, that would really build a very deep resentment.
Right. So that's what's really interesting is after I was arrested and then I came back from that, he wanted me to come home. So it wasn't necessarily about liking me or loving me or wanting to be married to me anymore. It was to control me and keep my mouth shut. So after Keith found out I was, in fact, concealing James's identity, and there was a man involved, and there was an emotional affair.
But he kind of knew there was an emotional affair before the kidnapping, correct? Or he was aware something was happening. Yeah. You talked about that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
So he was aware something was happening. So he has the anger of this, and then this explosion. And then in this 6 years, you're still with him through the 6-year period, right?
Mm-hmm. And COVID happened during that as well.
Yeah, which that's that destroyed a lot of marriages.
Yeah.
So, were there normal times with Keith in the 6 years? Because you are raising 2 kids.
Sure.
You are, like, are you able to have discussions? Are you binge watching shows? I know this is a remedial question, but I think some people would be like, what do you do for 6 years when trauma like this has happened and resentments on both sides have built up? Like, what is your day to day?
Well, Keith had a job where he was out of the house the majority of the day. He had a rule as well that I wasn't allowed to talk to him past about 6 o'clock at night. So there really wasn't a whole lot of engagement. Could you imagine going home to your fiance and telling her she wasn't allowed to talk to you past 6 o'clock at night?
She would love that. I mean, just to be honest with you. No, obviously, no. I mean, that seems like a very lonely, but at that point, I'm shocked he was even able, I would be scared to leave at that point because who knows what's going to happen. So there was control, but he also knew that at this point you weren't going to run again or have an emotional affair again. Or was there still, throughout this period, suspicions everywhere?
Suspicions everywhere. Yeah, of course, up until the very last moment. And for him, after the release of jail and coming back, he tried to get me to sign this really unfair agreement and this contract. Basically.
And that involved like the movies and stuff like that too.
He wanted control over everything. So he said that I could come home and I could have my children if I signed this contract, and I gave him ultimate control over everything, which is really, I think, a part that a lot of people miss is like he's on the stand now and he's fighting me in court now, saying that I'm this monster and I'm dangerous to my children. And yet he was offering me an opportunity to come home and have my children. All I had to do was shut my mouth, which I'm not going to do anymore.
Yeah. And so the divorce happens, and that's after you get back from prison, or what's the time frame? When
the divorce happens right before I go to prison.
Right before you go to prison.
So Keith had this idea of splitting the assets, right? Because we had several assets. We had properties and vehicles and all kinds of stuff. And I owe $300,000 in restitution. So, of course, Keith wanted to protect his assets. So he divorced me to hide the assets from the government, which he still has.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's and I asked Nicole Rittenmeyer, the director of the docuseries as well, were you paid for that?
no.
You see,
No.
because I was like, well, maybe she got paid. Maybe that's why, obviously, the book is out, and I would imagine.
They paid for my lunches.
But I mean,
I got a cool pair of shoes from it.
Shoes are good.
The running shoes from the reenactment,
my
the
God,
torturous
that's
reenactment that I had to have. But
so dark. So, I mean, you still have to pay the restitution.
You saw the content video, too, that I made right beforehand where I'm going, oh, my God, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And I remember Nicole sitting down with me and being like, so we have an idea. And punch me if you want, but we want to talk to you about this idea. And I remember when they were all like, we have an opportunity to like really demonstrate that this is not fake. This is real because you can't fake that kind of stuff. But you can also say no. And when we had talked about like the part where it's like, can you push yourself to get in the car? I remember turning to Nicole and being like, I can't. Like, I physically can't do it. And she felt so terrible. It's that point where it's like my body just physically can't go any further. I just couldn't do it. And it was really draining. It was really traumatic.
Yeah, part of me was like, well, hopefully she's getting paid if it's as traumatic, and you didn't. So I think a lot of people would think that was the case on that. So you still have to pay the restitution, obviously.
Which I am paying.
You are paying slowly back, right?
Yeah.
So that is like one of the last big things. And then you're working towards getting your children back. In terms of, Keith is in charge of these visitations or these talks. When is the last time? I mean, I would imagine you guys don't talk at all, right? Or you go through like a family wizard with the court, or how does it?
Keith and I, you mean?
Yeah, you and Keith.
Oh yeah, no, we use the Talking Parents app, and that's about
and is it cordial in any sort of way? I mean, like, I feel like you both are speaking through docuseries at this point, and it's like, do you have to play some sort of game to be able to get access to your children, or play nice in a way to be able to talk with them and see them?
I don't have to play nice. I'm so indifferent at this point. Now. I mean, I went through a mourning period for sure of losing our marriage and separating and our family never being whole again. But now it's just kind of.
But the idea of the marriage, you knew you wanted out. The idea of the marriage,
yeah. But it's interesting to watch Keith talk on the Talking Parents app. Like, you could totally tell that he uses AI to talk to me now. Like ChatGPT.
We gotta stop this AI. This AI is just, whatever.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Did you see that news story where people are falling in love with their AIs now too?
Yes, I just saw that. Oh my gosh. I think the best part of that is like when they ask him, if your wife asked you to stop, would you stop? And he says no. And then the wife goes, yeah, I'm thinking about it.
Yes, and the guy fallen in love with the AI, right?
Like, I wish I would have had an emotional affair with ChatGPT instead of none of this would have happened.
Well, I know we're making fun of something. We were joking about something we shouldn't, but that's... so there's a couple of... Are you good? Are you good on time still? Okay, cool. So the other thing that talks about in this book is Keith's relationship with your sister, right?
Mm-hmm. Get into the juicy stuff.
And then also I found it interesting in the docuseries, your relationship with Keith's sister, who you stayed with directly after you got out of the halfway house, correct?
Yeah.
I was shocked about that. I don't think I was aware of that. But then, you talk about this relationship with your sister even when you were younger in the book. And Keith is very close with your sister. Is that still the case?
Yep.
When's the last time you've spoken with your sister? And how do your parents maneuver that? Because they love all their kids, I'm sure.
They do. It's hard. When you're a child, just because you're a child, it doesn't give you the right to abuse your parents, So the way my sister treats my parents, I don't like it. It's a bummer. And she thinks just because she's the child that she then gets away with being able to speak to my parents in the manner that she does and treat them in the manner that she does. And it's just, abuse is abuse. It doesn't matter if you're the daughter, and everybody goes through trauma with their parents. Everybody goes through some kind of memory that they can remember where their parents raised their voice a little too loud or swatted you with a spoon or, did something wrong when you were a kid. But it's our responsibility as children to become adults and process that trauma. And my parents have put in an excessive amount of work to figure out where they went wrong. They're willing to go to therapy. They're willing to heal. They're willing to work through things.
Oh, I mean, we see that with their relationship with you as well.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful to experience that. I'm so lucky. I have something that so many people don't have. And to watch my sister just continuously abuse my parents.
But when you say abuse, what does that mean? Just in the way she speaks with them and the way she uses them?
Them.
But awful.
Oh my gosh, I'll give
way?
you this great example.
Yeah.
This is a great example. So when I was in prison, my mom was on the phone with me and she said, hey, I'm sending a card for my niece's birthday or something. Do you want me to sign your name on the card? That's a very normal family experience. You know, when you're even a married couple, you sign your husband's name on the card or something like that. And I said, oh my gosh, Mom, thank you so much. She not only sent it back, but she sent it back and said that it was fraud, that my mom was committing fraud and she was going to turn her into the law if she ever did that again, and that she was falsifying documents.
A birthday card.
Signing my name on a birthday card. Like, come on.
Well, and then what is this relationship?
It's causing so much distress from my mom.
With Keith. She stood with Keith, and did you ever get to have a conversation directly with your sister about this yet?
About which part?
I mean, I guess any of it, but about the Keith of it all, of like, you know, what is it? What have I done to you personally? Or why are you siding with Keith in all of this?
Well, Sheila has always been a stonewaller, right? She's always been someone, and Sheila is my sister. She's always been someone that we do the no contact now, right? A lot of people are kind of jumping on that trend, but when it's used in a way for punishment, it's actually a tactic for abuse. It's not actually used appropriately, because there are appropriate ways to do no contact and there are appropriate ways to have boundaries. But when it's used in a manner to punish and abuse someone, that's the incorrect way to do it. And that's kind of always how Sheila has been. She's always been someone that gives the silent treatment or plugs her ears or stone walls or purposefully. It's very similar to the abuse that I suffered with Keith, right? We grew up as children, and sometimes people say in psychology that we look for our partners with our attachment style that we grew up with, right? Well, Sheila is one of those attachment styles. So some of the similar patterns of abuse that I experienced growing up with my sister are exactly the same in Keith Papini. And that's what's so interesting about personality disorder and defense structures and abuse. And everyone throws around the narcissism word and things like that. But what that is, it's a pattern of how others abuse others. And so experiencing similarities between Sheila and Keith is really fascinating for me to be able to understand now and to go through the therapy process and have the validation of it and deeply understand that she's a really messed up individual who does really mean, horrible, abusive things to people. And it was not good when I grew up. I experienced a lot of sibling abuse with her, and the way that she's treating my parents now, it's horrific. And cutting them off just because they're supporting me is terrible.
So she cut your parents off, and you are no contact with her as well.
No contact with Sheila at all.
You're no contact, but she cut your parents off.
Correct.
Because they support you.
Correct.
But she'll still talk with Keith.
Yeah.
Okay.
She still goes to vacations and travels with him, and
she goes on vacations and travels with Keith.
Yeah.
Wow. Is Keith with somebody right now?
I have no idea.
You have no idea, but
I don't care. Good luck to you.
Well, I mean,
whoever's the next one.
Well, you do mention in the book it took you, I think, 7 years to find the correct way to love.
Yeah,
I believe that was right. So,
well, I had to learn how to have a relationship with intimacy. I never had a relationship with intimacy.
What's that like to even consider trusting yourself even to get into some sort of relationship or talk with somebody in that manner? Because I would almost think I would second guess myself with so much therapy. It'd be like, am I doing this for attachment? Am I doing this for validation? Am I doing this? You know, I would almost second and triple and quadruple guess myself anybody that I talked with from here on out. Yeah. So what was that like for you? I mean, are you with somebody right now?
Right now, my primary focus is on the kids. So that's where my focus lies.
So that's not a no, but that's where your primary focus is. But I just would imagine and you do say you are writing a second book. So would something like that potentially be in a second book? Because I think a lot of people would be curious of, even through all the trauma, what does dating look like? What does a relationship or trust look like after all of this? And on both sides.
It's not very easy when your name is my name.
That's
so
exactly.
That makes it
That's
very
what I'm saying. Like, hey, I'm dating Sherri Papini.
Yeah.
That's got to be a conversation. I mean, I said I was interviewing you and people had opinions, you know? So I would imagine that would be something that would be interesting to explore, or something that you would be talking about.
Again, why I'm focusing on just my kids, because it's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging.
Well, I don't want to talk about the kids because they're kids, so I'd rather talk about the dating.
Well, I think, I had to go through an extensive process of figuring out where things went wrong, and having the freedom to figure out who I am authentically has been really incredible. And I think a lot of women that go through divorces, they have to figure it out after that. When you've spent such a long time with a partner, and then coming out and having to start all over again, it's a whole process. And it's something that I think a lot of people are going to be able to identify with, because going through divorce and speaking to some of my other friends that have gone through divorce, like, it's a big process, and starting over and figuring out like what you want and what you certainly don't want. It's this it can be a heartbreaking experience, but also a very empowering experience, because you have the opportunity to be as picky as you want. And say, this is not what I want.
Hopefully you're as picky as you. Like, this is the part to no, but seriously, we're talking about breaking, no matter what happened, what the story is. Now we're talking to get into the nitty gritty of
rebuilding my life.
But how do we also break patterns that we've set up since childhood?
Yes.
It's like I was thinking up until oh my God, 2 years ago, I was telling somebody this because I wanted them to not feel bad, or it takes so long, and it can be such a frustrating process where you'll just beat yourself up because you're like, why do I do these things? Why are these so ingrained?
And I get beat up by other people online, like the process that you go through of criticism, like, you're already criticizing yourself.
Well, that's why I don't know why you're doing that. No, seriously, I said, I mean, like, I would be disappearing on Lake Shasta. I would not, but you want to tell your story.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is another thing that people are potentially suspicious of. Do you want to be a star?
No, this is so uncomfortable.
Well, I know this isn't going to make you a star, but do you want to be, is this like, I see my name in lights?
I mean, no.
Yeah.
Name in lights? No.
No, it's like, but like,
Okay, well,
you're
there's
not
a
joining
difference.
the Real Housewives
No,
of
there's
Shasta.
a difference between like actors and like, I'm a headliner. I think that's what people have categorized me of, right? I'm not like a star, and I'm not on reality TV. I'm just someone that's made the headlines, right?
Well, listen, they had Anna Delvey on Dancing with the Stars a couple seasons ago. Are we going to see Sherri Papini on Dancing with the Stars?
No.
Okay, so we can put that out right now.
I think what I want to do is I want to be able to speak to other women. I want to be able to speak in the prison systems. I want to be able to work with other companies like ARC and things like that, the Anti-Recidivism Coalition. That's so hard to say. I want to be able to speak to people. My story is 100% preventable. What happened to me is preventable. And so why not be able to give that gift to someone else and be able to help someone in some way or another, and being able to become a crisis coach, and not necessarily a life coach, but like someone that can help people in times of crisis, because I've lived a life of crisis, not just crisis, but crisis under the microscope and under cameras and things like that. So,
well, that's why when this all got kicked up again, and with the new information that you revealed about James in the docuseries in your book, it's like you're kicking it up all again. Is that you're putting yourself through this all again, and you say, well, this time you're telling your story.
Yeah.
So there is, I guess, a pride in finally being able to reveal your truth, but there's also
I get to rebuild my life as well. I mean, I'm working with Tim Story now too, and he is a life coach that primarily helps on rehabilitating people in the industry as well.
What kind of things does he have you do in like terms of life coaching and rehabilitation?
Well, he's actually helping me become a crisis coach as well.
Like, what does a life coach do for somebody that that's gone through this sort of trauma and this kind of worldwide, very Americanized event in terms of true crime and pop culture? How does one work with Sherri Papini to say, this is what you need to do? Is it like, do 3 things a day that's going to make you put a smile on your face?
Well, I think the first thing that Tim Story taught me is that I'm not a disposable person. right? Everybody has setbacks and everybody has mess in their life. And just because I've made a mistake, it doesn't mean that I'm disposable. It doesn't mean that, oh, well, she lied and we caught her lying, so now she never gets to speak. And it also doesn't mean that everything that comes out of my mouth is a lie. And so having someone in the industry that he's in and the manner in which that he's in saying like, we all make mistakes, but you don't have to sit in this setback and you don't have to be this disposable person. It's been really incredible, and it's given me fortitude and strength to move forward and do something with my life that's creating some kind of legacy that I can be proud of, and learning how to rebuild and reformulate and move forward. I think that's what's most important, because what we don't want is we don't want people to be crushed forever. You know, like you said, I would be crushed under the weight, but I'm not.
Unless you're Jax Taylor from the back. I don't think you watch reality TV, but no, I'm joking. No, I agree with that. I don't want anybody to feel disposable, and I also do believe forgiveness. I believe we all make mistakes.
If I can do it, everyone else can do it. If you can come through this and have something inspirational and move forward in your life, anyone can do it. You know, there are so many people out there that have made even bigger mistakes than me and smaller mistakes than me, and they get crushed under the weight of the comments, and they get crushed under the weight of the criticism.
Am I allowed to ask a very dark question? Is that, I mean, you don't have to answer, but was there ever a thought about, unaliving yourself? Was there ever a thought of, I can't bear the weight of this?
No. And that's there's a number of books where you purchase the book, and I've signed the book, right? And I say in the book here in this page, it says, don't give up, keep going. And when you feel like you want to stop, give it another 5 seconds, and then give it another 20 minutes, and then give it another day. Like, just don't give up.
I mean, I can relate to you in that. I mean, tomorrow will look different.
Just keep going. Just keep going. And having experienced captivity for 22 days, it was like every moment that I opened my eyes, it was another opportunity to just keep going. And every second of every day, we have an opportunity to completely change our lives.
So a couple of things about that before I let you go, and I hope I hope this has been okay for you.
Yeah.
Is in those 22 days with James, and I think you're going to read something from your book in a second, but in terms of the abuse and just even how the story came out, is that you were branded, right? And I think this is another true crime pop culture thing, is that we had like the Nixium thing where Keith Raniere was like branding his victims or the people that were with his religion. And James did that to you. But a lot of people said, well, listen, you were into arts and crafts. You knew how to, but I'm saying you've read this stuff. You've heard this.
Yeah.
Is that how would this guy know to go get this branding stuff and all that stuff of like, well, you're being asked to get hit because you want to make sure that your wounds are believable enough because you got to get out of here. You didn't realize there was going to be such a media firestorm. A media frenzy. What do you say to people that believe things like that?
I didn't ask for that. I didn't ask for that, and I didn't consent to that. And if for some reason you believe that I consented to that and that I asked for that, he did that to me. He did it to me. He didn't come forward, and he didn't say anything. And he had years to come forward and say something, and he lied to law enforcement about it. And I went to prison, and I've served time for concealing his identity. But do you have friends that you chain to the wall and harm them just because they've asked you to?
Yeah.
No, that's crazy.
No, I mean, it is crazy. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, that's just crazy.
When you have a confirmation bias, right, that's what we're looking for here. We're looking for Sherri crafted. So there's a connection there.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to connect the dots and you're trying to find the clues to solve the crime.
Well, because it's so crazy. It's so fantastical. So you're like, okay,
and the truth about it makes so much more sense.
And we lived in a post Gone Girl era.
Right.
Where, so you're like, well, this is believable. And then it's like the two Hispanic ladies. And it's such a fantastical story where there are these lies. You can't determine what is the truth and what is a lie. So I can see where people, myself included at one point, were confused about this. And we're like, okay. And we grew up, we're a nation of people now that grew up on Dateline. Mm-hmm. So we sometimes see how these things play out. the thing is, though, with
Yeah,
the
but
James...
it's similar to like Denise Huskins, right? I mean, he kidnapped her in a scuba mask and put a camera in the corner and stuff like that. Just because it's fantastical, it doesn't mean that it's true or false.
Yeah.
Crazy things happen, especially during abductions when we have someone that's a very sick individual harming someone else, like mutilating someone's body. So crazy things happened in my case, and it's not actually any different than some other cases.
But why isn't James in jail then?
Good question.
Well, I mean, so what is the answer to that? Why are we not? I mean, we've just gotten some audio or the documentaries. He doesn't want to participate in it. So why, if this is all true, why is he not being questioned within an inch of his comfortability? Like, why? That's the part I think I'm confused on.
Well, legally, I can't go into too much detail about it, but we're working on that.
So there might be news at some point about this.
I would stay tuned.
And I would imagine his family and friends have seen all of this as well.
And frankly, this is the portion of the case that I am able to come forward now. I wasn't able to come forward before, so I didn't give them that opportunity. When law enforcement was interrogating me and they had that last interrogation where they said we knew James was involved, I went, I don't know what you're talking about. So I didn't really give them the opportunity to do their jobs effectively. And that's something that I've paid for and that I've taken accountability for. That's not the case now. I'm not afraid to tell the truth, and I am giving them everything, and I am giving them every detail, and I'm continuing to say, look, there is no evidence to conclude there was consent. There's none. And in fact, there's more to conclude that there wasn't consent than there was.
I keep having questions. There, one part of the book, this was very disturbing. This wasn't a sexual relationship with you and James.
No.
But you said there was, I believe, a family member that came over at one point and was doing something sexual in nature to his own body. Yep. I was blown away by that. So he had people or a person come over and saw that you were captive. Where is this person?
I don't know.
But that person exists.
That person exists. So he lived in a complex with his uncle and his cousin that lived in the same complex. So there was people watching me the entire time that I was held captive. And they did know that I was there. I mean, his cousin nicknamed me America's Most Wanted, for goodness sakes.
Because you were all over the news.
They all knew that I was there. They all knew what was happening. Even his mother knew what was happening. They were all involved. So,
and you're saying all of this knowing that people now look into every last detail of these cases.
Good.
Yeah.
I hope they do. Because when I went to prison, I met so many women that were in there for years for a conspiracy charge. And a conspiracy can be as little as someone was on a drug deal and they were in the passenger seat and they got arrested and they happened to know that there could have potentially been a drug deal and they get charged with conspiracy. Conspiracy is knowing, right? Having the information and knowing there's something going on. And there's multiple other people in this case that knew what was going on, and yet no one else is attached to the restitution. It's only me. I'm paying for the entire bill. And no one even caught a simple conspiracy charge in this investigation. No one caught an impeding an investigation or a conspiracy or has any attachment to the distribution of the restitution that I'm paying.
Gotcha. Wait, do you still talk with anybody that you were in prison with?
Under the parameters of my probation and following
is that something you can't ask?
No, you can ask.
Okay.
I follow the rules.
Okay.
So yes, as long as it's approved. So you have to get approval from your probation officer in order to talk to them. So, but yes.
Sorry, I keep three last things. What was the?
I'm just going to make an assumption here that you've probably never done time.
We'll get. I'm hoping eventually, but no. I don't want to. No, what was the scariest part of a prison experience, and were you in such a prison that prison itself wasn't necessarily as bad as you might have thought it would have been?
Prison was bad.
No, I mean, you talk about it in the book. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're always on your guard in prison. It's a very serious place, and I've been to the county jail, which was disgusting, and that was
the first place, and then
yeah. I mean, like, you're in a really small pod. I think they did a reality TV show on the Sacramento County Jail. I want to say it was called Jailbirds or something.
Oh my God!
Where they're like
with
talking
the kites,
through the toilet,
they were flushing the notes.
That's where I was.
That's where you were. You sending kites up and down?
No. But
Yeah,
that's
you guys,
the
there's a
thing.
Netflix show called Jailbirds. It was years ago, and they would have romantic relationships. So they would
Through the
throw a letter
toilet.
down, and
Yeah.
whoever got the letter would be like, "That's my boyfriend." It was that was where you were.
Yeah, by the way, your drinking water's in the back end of that toilet, so real fun.
Wow.
Good times. Yeah.
But there is camaraderie with the other women, and there's
Yeah.
kinship and all of that stuff, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I went in there thinking I was just going to get beat up every day, and then came out with a massive amount of friends. Didn't have as much trouble as I thought I was going to have. Definitely had trouble. I definitely struggled, but came out with some really incredible relationships from other women. Very incredible.
So you're saying 10 out of 10, prison, highly recommend. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have to throw in some dad jokes
this
here.
Podcast. People are going to be like, Sherri has a personality. No. You're not allowed to do that.
In comparison to my personality. You said you did want to read a passage of your book.
I would love that.
Yeah, let's read a passage of your book as we start winding down here, because I would love to. What is this?
Before I read the chapter, Can I give you a prison story?
Yeah, please.
So, when I was in Victorville Federal Prison, we were in the women's camp, right? And so what most people don't know is when you're in a federal prison camp, it's the inmates that run the facility. There's not staff there. The bathrooms are cleaned by inmates. The food is distributed by inmates. The facility is maintained by the inmates. Everything is done by inmates. And while I was on the facility, I had a couple of jobs because you're forced to have a job there. And slavery is alive and well because you get paid a whole 12 cents an hour to work 12-hour days in Victorville in the heat in the summertime as well.
What was your job?
I had two jobs. So my first job primarily was working with the chapel. So I worked in chapel services and provided all sorts of religious material to folks and set up the chapel services for everyone there. My other job, I worked with Mo, which you see in the documentary.
Yeah.
So that's how I met Mo. And we worked in the food service warehouse. And the food service warehouse in the compound, right? You have the women's federal camp, and then surrounding the camp, we have men's facilities. So we have 2 medium and minimal security men's prisons, and then a maximum. So it looks like this fortress that's all in cement and they can't see the light of day or anything. And we're in charge, the females are in charge of distributing the food to the other men's facilities. And I mean, when we deliver them, there's windows and they're banging on the windows and screaming at the women delivering everything. But you have to build these pallets. So the food comes in kind of like a Costco, and you have to build the pallets with the rice and the beans and the cereal and all the things. And what I noticed when I met Mo is the food's months expired. Some of it is years expired.
Yeah.
And then there's these boxes where it has the meat in it, right? And we have women running the facility, so they're learning how to drive forklifts. So I'm teaching other women how to drive the forklifts.
Right.
They're running the forklifts into the pallets of meat, and it sprawls out all over the floor. And we're told by guards, just stuff it back in there and wrap it with duct tape.
That's still good.
And then you read the boxes and it says, not only is it expired, but it says right in it in big letters, not for human consumption. So it's like the meat that you make dog food out of that you're eating. So it was, and then there was a time too in the kitchens where they were, we were bringing all the frozen meat into the kitchen, and you're pulling apart the pork, right? There's pulled pork, and there's a nipple, there's hooves.
Well, it's been great talking to you, Sherri. I hope all works out for you.
The food was amazing in prison. It was amazing.
Well, you survived it, but you actually did. Before we started, you were talking, then you had to go to a halfway house, which the halfway house is even scarier than prison.
I had no idea. And if I would have known what the process was like, if I would have known that the halfway house was like that, I would have objected and I would have stayed in prison because it was actually safer. The Victorville Federal Prison Camp was safer than the halfway house, with 75 men, all who had been incarcerated for decades at a time. And I'm talking serious offenders, violent offenders, sexual abuse offenders, all who haven't seen a woman in decades, with doors that didn't even lock appropriately. Yes, there's cameras, but every single angle where we went down or out for count or for the food, which was in the basement in Oakland, which was where I was staying in the halfway house. They all knew where to grope you, where to grab you, where to push you up against the wall where there wasn't any cameras. So it was a horrific experience. And battling the rats and the roaches and having to wash my clothes in a garbage pail in the shower.
And how long were you in the halfway house?
6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah.
There was one part of the book that I found fascinating. It was you were with your girlfriends the night before prison, I believe, or the drive.
Yeah.
And I think your last meal was like a In-N-Out burger, no sauce, which I think a lot of people can relate to. But then all of your friends kind of tattooed up your legs. And
I had it everywhere.
Was just like magic marker or something like that?
So there's like ink box pens. So ink box is like it's a permanent marker for your skin, basically. It's like a temporary tattoo.
But it didn't. How long did it last while you were in there?
For a month or so.
Really?
Probably longer. Yeah.
Well, even in that though, I was like, and you have a picture of it in the book, you know, so you're going in there with all of these messages, positive and some corny, but overall positive. But it was in terms of like branding and stuff like that. Do you have a physical aversion to anybody touching your skin at this point? Like, and I was just like, it was a very funny, sweet moment, but I was like, oh my God, do you freak out when things like that happen? And obviously you've worked past that.
There's still a lot of PTSD.
Yeah.
So, it's hard for me to wear belts and things like that. And that's why the polygraph examination was really difficult, because when I'm strapped into things, that's really challenging for me. And I still have a response, but I've worked really, really hard. And that's what I think is really something that I try really hard to talk about in my book. It's graduating from victim to survivor. So when we're in victim mode, we're held back from things, right? We have very visceral PTSD that keeps us kind of trapped in things, and we lose out on experiences from things. And when you have these corrective emotional experiences where it's appropriate touch and it's appropriate connection, and you can rebuild your neural network connection to that, you can start to learn to let go of the PTSD and work through it. And I've worked tremendously hard on trying to work through my PTSD. There's still a lot of things I struggle with, but I've worked really hard to get through it.
And in terms of the restitution, you understand restitution. The people were out there, that was money. So you understand those aspects of. It's just that there are other people, and James especially, that needs to be looked at. And
of course,
potentially will be more information on that.
He had an involvement in the case.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Will you read that passage if you don't mind?
Yeah, I would love that. Thank you. Get a drink of water first, actually.
And by the way, I think there will be an audiobook version of this, you guys, if you are, because
we're working on that.
You can get all of this information about her book at sherripapinibook.com, and that'll be in the show notes as well.
Thank you. He released the cable without a word, dropped clothes onto the bed, and disappeared again. I hurriedly pulled on the oversized sweats and thin sweatshirt, rough fabric scraping painfully against my infected wounds. Beneath layers of cloth, I felt hollow, fragile, bones hidden within folds of emptiness. Then James's voice sliced through the doorway, flat and emotionless. "Get in the bag," he said. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. Fingers gripping excess fabric, knuckles white, body trembling. Refusal wasn't a luxury that I could afford. His voice hardened with familiar menace. Be a good girl and get in the bag. It was a tone promising nightmares. Slowly, carefully, I folded myself smaller, delicate origami into a hockey duffel, pungent, smelling of sweat and mildew. 87 pounds. Compacted into compliance, reduced to nothing. James zipped the bag slowly and deliberately, lifted me. For a fleeting moment, hidden in the darkness, I felt safe. But his invasive touch returned, burning through the fabric against my folded body. Eyes closed tightly, silent screams trapped deep in my throat. I knew safety was merely an illusion. Always an illusion. Even inside the bag, pressed beneath his arm, he felt unbearably close. I hated the sensation of his body through the fabric, each step forcing air from my lungs in shallow, strangled gasps. I held my breath, cheeks puffed, jaw clenched tight. My body betrayed me anyway, and every jolting movement crushed me, pushing air out involuntarily, loud and helpless. I was sure that the sound would enrage him. His breath quickened louder now, as though trying to drown out mine. He seemed nervous, squeezing me tighter, more urgently. The metallic click of the latch broke the tension. Suddenly, I was falling, landing lifeless thud inside of a trunk. He shoved the bag roughly, repositioning it until I was satisfied, then slammed the trunk shut. An echo sealed me into silence. I lay unmoving, knees clutched desperately to my chest, sharp edges of the hose clamps digging cruelly into my ankles. No matter how I twisted or painful my position, I didn't dare to shift or breathe too loudly. The sensation beneath me shifted. Road. Movement. I was no longer in the house. This was it. James had said he would take me out, but now it was happening. A sudden rush of hope surged. I was going home. This nightmare was finally ending. But the car stopped abruptly, and the bag unzipped, and before I could process what was happening, a pillowcase slipped over my head. Confusion blurred with terror. Had I misunderstood? Was I wrong about this?
Well, that's not a fun way to end. No, I mean, well, thank you for sharing your story and continuing to share your story. And is there anything that you would like to leave the viewers or listeners with in regards to anything?
I think so many people are going to find themselves in my story. There's so many things that are so relatable to everyone. And no matter what anyone is going through in their life, you're not a disposable person. Nobody is.
Yeah. And obviously you have the court case coming up where you are going to be testifying. And
Yes.
So it's going to be a busy rest of the 2025 for you.
Yes.
And we wish you, I mean, you got to watch some reality TV so we can come back and have you recap a reality show. But
Done.
I think we're...
Make some suggestions for me.
Wouldn't that be great? She does an episode of Vanderpump Rules. Really, that would blow people away, I think. But thank you. I know this, you didn't have to do this, so I appreciate you spending all this time with us because I can't imagine having to relive trauma. So we appreciate it and just hope the best for you and all your family.
Thank you.
Yeah.